Part 17. Looking at the Slug. I lay on the bench for the first time in a long time and looked up at the sky. A big rock-like cloud shadow passed over the graveyard where the spring air was clear, but only the trees with roots flew their hair. A flock of black clouds were gathering, blocking the white clouds. The sand wind was dancing in circles and smacked me in the face. A large slug from a tree was scurrying around, moving its V-shaped antennae. Why can't I take even one step here? I'm tired. I don't have the strength to crawl anymore. Come on, honey. Come on. It's just your time has not come yet. My wife revived me like a ventilator with consolation whenever I had a hard time, but I was tired then. What about being a part-time lecturer? There are many students coming to me. I don't need that kind of money or connections. What I want is to be a teacher with a mission. The student you were teaching came to our house. I heard he is in his third semester of his PhD. He has already been a full-time lecturer at a junior college. Do you think it could be? He has not graduated yet. He does not have graduation robes, but the school asked professors to wear one at the entrance ceremony, so I'm going to lend it to him. But I don't feel good about it. You wore it only once for graduation. Why doesn't the world recognize you? The forest had become dim and unnoticed. The damp, gloomy wind started to rattle through the forest. I graduated from a commercial high school. Considering my family circumstances, that was beyond our means. When all my brothers graduated from college and got jobs in large companies, my family would have thought that the hard life was over and happiness would begin. When I graduated from high school and went to work, most of the staff were from top universities, and there were several successors of the business owners who came to learn to take over the business. When they spoke English and wrote letters in English, I went to the bank and the shipping companies with the documents they wrote. The only thing I could do better than them was being younger. Studying was the only shortcut to getting better. Other people had good relatives, connections, etc., that were in contact with the higher people, and shells that could be turned over, but I had to be the shell for my family. I had to succeed in order to improve their status. A dozen years had passed. Many high school alumni were financially successful. One of my friends, Japil, worked hard to buy real estates. Another friend, Sengsok, who used to be a stylish man, took over the rest area from his stepfather-in-law and went out to play golf. A friend of mine, who lived in a large apartment over 200 square meters, even easily paid 1,000,000 won for one drink at night. All I had was a 100 square meter apartment in Anyang, but I was not discouraged. Many friends usually rushed to pay for the food at restaurants. I was not like them. I had a dream. It was sad to have no money in a capitalist society, no matter how hard I tried to ignore the money. Those friends called out loud whenever they met me. "Hey, Dr. Che, don't you have a lecture today?" He is a high school alumnus. He is a professor at K University. The loud voice made the eyes of strangers suddenly focus on my face. They called me up to show me off like a face worthy of their dignity. The juniors who wrote their dissertations while seeking advice from me during their master's and PhD programs had left to become full-time lecturers one by one. A junior in the doctoral program was already the head of our university's department. "Do it with your own skills. I will do it my way," he said. I had been teaching for 12 years by this time. I went to work during the day, and at night I taught at an evening college. I often left the dean of the department laughing. He seemed to be in a bad mood when he saw my face, even though he was arrogant. The slug tried hard to crawl forward, but it's in place. When I put my fingers in front of the slug, it wiggled its antennae. When did the slug lose its shell to protect itself? The slug has a decayed, tiny shell in its chest. It is naked. For no reason, I felt a prick under my ribs. I was done. The letters on the fax paper stuck out one by one and were engraved on my heart. I want to take the professor's lecture on the case of the main subject. Please don't leave it to the time lecturer. I jumped to my feet in anger. I felt very shabby in the pants that went up to my ankles. My leather bag, which had been attached to me for more than a decade, was tilted to one side. The pants in the bag were similar as me. I went down the hillside feeling weak. My 2 legs were lounging in the large trousers. I thought to myself, I don't think I can stand on these 2 weak legs. I was hungry, so I entered the alley of the market. I quickly stepped aside when I heard loud music. A man with a mask covering half his face was crawling along with a dark rubber leg. I need your help. I bought nail clippers from him on the way to this market before, but today I had nothing to buy, and I did not want to worry about the man's voice because of the anger I had. If I were you, I would donate to the school and become a professor, even if I had to sell my apartment and live in a tent. That's what everyone's trying to do. I heard a loud scratch on the floor. The man who took off his mask was a handsome young man in his mid-20s. He set up his upper body and untied the strap connected to his cart. The man who came out of the cart was like a slug that took off its heavy shell. Help me, please. The man wiggled to the back of the alley. I am sorry, but I need you to help me pee. I cannot do this alone. I hugged him from behind. He stood with his arms all over the wall. My fingers trembled as I unzipped his rubber clothes. His urine burst into the toilet in a roar. Thank you very much, sir. I was thrilled to follow the man who was wiggling like a slug. He said he brought his lunchbox and asked me to eat with him. I was embarrassed to hear his proposal. You are a college teacher, aren't you? You always pass through the market during lunchtime. Maybe you bought a nail clipper from me. And you bought earplugs, right? I laughed bitterly. I tried to become a university professor with a sense of mission. I wouldn't have been so desperate if I had done this just to make a living. I listened to the man. I had a lot of dreams. After I lost both legs in a car accident, I dreamed of committing suicide every day. I was lying helplessly next to the table, and I couldn't stand because I was like an animal bred. My wife's family told her to divorce me, but my purely foolish wife made money to feed me. I want to wiggle, even if I have to crawl all over the world. My wife cried because she felt sorry for me being like this, but now she asks how much sales I have made. Now I want my wife to have a healthy body. She is in the last month of her pregnancy. The man's shoulders had become muscular like a bodybuilder. What was the end of my greed? What was I expecting? Can I not be content with ordinary happiness? He gave a tobacco cigarette to me. Who drew the line between him and I? I began to tell the man what was in my heart. I recited what the student had left me. I want to take the professor's lecture in the main subject. I don't doubt the academic depth of the part-time lecturer. My lecture was not a bad one, and the students respected me as a lecturer and senior. I knocked on the door of the dean's office at the graduate school. You should have prepared for the lecture. You are a president of a department in college, and you have been active, but you are getting discouraged. Did the dean receive the donation from Professor Min, my junior? Everyone knows my thesis was good at graduate school. I turned away from the dean and left the dean's office. I saw a warning sticker on my car that said, "Don't park here, outsider." When I saw the parking warning, a clenched fist came up from my chest. "Professor, look at me. You should count your blessings. Your limbs are still intact." When I heard the man's words of consolation, I felt embarrassed. The man crawled to the bottom of the market like swimming in the blue sea. Black rubber legs, like fins, were glossy and smooth. What was the shell that had supported me so far? If I were to crawl down to the ground, I would not have such a high self-esteem or vent my anger. I have been living my life with a dream of endless ascension. I entered first place and graduated first place. I thought it was okay not to be a full-time lecturer. There were students coming in like clouds to attend the lecture, but they collapsed all at once. I am not confident in teaching in front of the students as if nothing had happened. I was the shell that would cover my family, but I lost it. Do I have to sell my knowledge from a country to another like a slug crawling for food? I called the dean of the graduate school. "What happened to you, Dr. Che? I can't believe you missed the lecture. Is it because of yesterday's letter? They didn't write it. I think it's Min's scheme." Suddenly, heavy rain poured down. They must have had something to take over. As if I was a slug, they wanted to take away the little shell that was stuck in my heart. I ran through the rain with a crumpled bag on my head.